Ninja here. I hope you're doing great. China has taken the trade war to 11. Let's see, that's 1 and 1. This is not a joke. And it's funny because it's like, this is all we're going to see probably this week. I'm going to tariff you 50%. I'm going to tariff you 100%. I'm going to tariff you 101%, 102%. This is where we're at. And someone's going to lose. Someone's going to lose poorly. Do me a favor, type China or USA, whoever you think is going to lose this trade war. I'm curious to see what you think. Now, this is very exciting because this is only going to cause markets to melt down even more. Thus, all of us being able to pick up shares, crypto, just about anything at rock bottom prices. And I want you to understand, this is not going to be long lived. This is not the apocalypse. This is not bad. This is a buying opportunity. All right, as we get into this story, this one's out of Zero Hedge. I want to remind you the Crypto DeFi Pro course sale ends today. So if you want that, if you want to be a part of the next leg up and you want to learn ahead of time so that you know how to make money, I check that out. All right, here we go. After Beijing's overnight inaction in response to President Trump's new 104% effective tariff rate on Chinese goods and the release of a white paper on trade between the two superpowers, there now appears to be a response from the Chinese side. Bloomberg reports that China plans to counter Trump's tariffs with an effective tariff rate of around 84%, escalating the trade war. These countermeasures go into effect on Thursday. Now, let me explain something because I had a very interesting interaction with a couple of people that say that lean. Nah, they fell over to the left side. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But you know, if you think about it, we have everything that we need here, right? Sure, there's some things like semiconductors that we shipped off. We should not have done that to Asian countries to have them built. But we have been working on semiconductor plants here, trying to bring TSMC over. There's a whole thing about that. But when you think about it, our necessities, we produce here. We've got wood, we've got food, we've got cotton, we've got the things that we need. If Americans were able to just scale back just a little bit for, let's say, a few months, we're like, you know what? I don't need to buy a big screen TV today. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna fix a car. I'm just gonna deal with what I've got for 3 months. Do you know what that would do to the rest of the world? It would put such a strain and squeeze because all of those countries have leveraged themselves as well. American companies have leveraged themselves in overseas operations, and they would be forced to come back here. Now, let me tell you about this conversation I had with this couple last night. I mean, it was pretty mild, but you could tell which way of the political side they were leaning to because they said, well, you know, the guy in charge, they couldn't even say his name. They'd probably start crying or yelling if they did. But my point being is they would keep saying the guy in charge. He's not going to be able to bring back jobs. And I said, well, let me ask you this, because he said it's wrong that we're tariffing all of these countries. And I said, you know, let's set aside the percentage of tariffs. Let's just set that aside. And I used Vietnam as an example. It's a great example because Vietnam just came out and said, hey, we'll drop our tariffs on you guys to 0%. Zero. And he goes, yeah, what's your point? I said, well, let's set that aside and let's think about this. For every $1 of goods that we get to sell Vietnam, they sell us around $17 worth of goods. Now his eyes got big. He was listening. I said, but that's not even the issue, really. That's one issue. It's an issue. But China is funneling goods through Vietnam to us to skirt their sanctions because they sell way more than $17 worth of goods to us. It's a trade imbalance. So you have tariffs at one level is one thing, but something else. Thank you so much, Jeff, for the super chat. The other thing is how many dollars of ours are going over to them as opposed to theirs going to us. All right. Have you ever noticed? This isn't a race thing. This is a trade thing. A question: how many of you have gotten on a plane? Type 1 if this has happened to you. You've gotten on a plane in a large hub, and you see someone from a different country. And mostly it's Asian countries. They get on the plane and they are decked out with Gucci sweats, Prada sunglasses, Louis Vuitton bags, all this stuff. How many of you have seen that? Type 1 if you've seen that. And you've probably wondered, How can that person afford to dress like that? I can't afford to dress like that. I shop at Ross. Serious. But yeah, how could they afford that? I'm going to tell you exactly how they can afford that. Companies make things in other countries for rock bottom prices because of low rent, low employment, things like that, low wages. And they sell this stuff all over the world at one price. And then they sell it to Americans at a much higher price. And the reason why is America has access to two things: insane available credit. Anyone can get a credit card. You could be a college student, never gotten a credit card in your life, boom, you're instantly access to credit. You can get a car loan, a home loan, a student loan. You could get loans for your dog's surgery. You could get loans for anything, right? So that's one thing America has. The other thing America has is an insatiable appetite and it's like a greed thing to look better than the next guy. And I know that that happens around the world, but America is far different. And so what happens is companies make products, they sell them all around the world for one price. They sell them to America for a much higher price. And they do this thing. I was speaking with a buddy of mine, and he wanted to buy a nice watch because the truth is, a watch and there's other things in life that open up doors and open up conversations with successful people. Okay. It's a thing. Hate, love it or hate it. I learned this a long, long time ago. And there's other things too. But he wanted to buy this watch and he goes, there's no way I'm buying this watch because the company says in order for me to get the one that I want, I need to go out and buy a watch that's like $60,000. It's a hunk of junk just to be able to qualify for that watch. And I was explaining to him the Ferrari model. I explained to him the Rolex model, business model of causing people to feel less of a person or get that greed going to where they'll spend money that they normally wouldn't, right? There's all kinds of companies that do this. And a lot of these items are coming out of China and Asian countries. And China's really the bully. They are the ones running the entire show outside of the US. They put together the BRICS nations. They have put together SIPs, a challenger, and quite frankly, a much better technology package than what we have with SWIFT codes for moving money around the world. And so Donald Trump knows this. A lot of people in the White House knows this. Type 2 if you know this. You go, yeah, China's the bully. They're the ones that we gotta knock down a notch. You know, I mean, for heaven's sakes, they're so big that when a United States movie company is redoing Red Dawn, who here seen Red Dawn and likes? Come on, type yes. The new one or the remake? I just watched the original one with my son for the first time with him. You know, and the movie was about China coming and attacking. Shoot, man, China just went and bought the entire movie studio and changed it, and so that it didn't look like they were, you know, attacking us. This is a big deal. They've gotten so big, so that's why it's going to take a little bit more time. Now, what's interesting to watch people on CNBC, Aaron, I'll read this little segment. Check this out. It says here, a day earlier, this is out of Bloomberg, China vowed to fight to the end if the U.S. insists on new tariffs. Chinese exports were already facing blanket levels. Thank you so much, Josh, for the super chat. Blanket levels, or sorry, levies imposed this year, and punitive taxes from Trump's first term and the following Biden administration. China also added 6 firms to its unreliable entry list and 12 U.S. entities to its export control list. Initially, Trump justified the 34% tariff hike on China as a fair way to match the barriers that Beijing has in place against U.S. firms and goods, and then added them after Beijing retaliated with its own levies. You see, the thing is we know how powerful China is, and if quick action is not taken now, you have to understand the BRICS nations are getting so darn powerful that they will not only enact a war on our economy, but that can affect our military. You see, the reason why our military is so big and so strong is because we were able to build up so fast because we had the money printing. Now, regardless of how you feel about the money printing, right? And I do not think it's the right thing the way we've done things. However, let me ask you this. Type USA or China, which one you'd rather see running the world as the peacekeeper. Who do you think would do better? The United States, or do you think China would? That is a real question. And that's really what it comes down to. Regardless of how we got here, this is where we're at. And we've got to understand that if we don't knock this back a notch, we're going to be in trouble. And the truth is, that conversation with the people that fell too far to the left on last night at the restaurant, the gentleman said, well, the man in charge, there's no way he's going to be able to get jobs to come back here. And I gave him an example. I said, right now there are European car companies like BMW, Porsche, all these companies that are hurting because of these tariffs, right? And he goes, oh yeah. I said, there's one European car company that's not hurting, and that's Mercedes-Benz. He goes, why? I said, Mercedes-Benz, number one factory that makes the most cars in the world, the most profitable, is in Europe. The second largest factory is located in the United States. They moved, I think, around 20 years ago because the United States was such a large market for them. And they haven't had this issue. And it's funny because you're watching the cogs turn in the gentleman's mind, and it only takes a soft word of information to be able to change someone's mind. But what this person and so many people watch on the media is anger and frustration and people upset. As a matter of fact, even the CNBC anchors right now are freaking out. I don't even know what the stock market's doing, and part of me doesn't even care because I already got a good clue of what's going to happen. So let's look at it right now. As the market, it's just about to open, right? Dow futures are down 330 points. The S&P's down 22. Nominal, right? It's like the market's digested what's going on, and they're like, you know what, this is just a battle. I think we're going to be okay. I think the more that people understand the difference between the tariffs and the trade imbalance, which are two totally different things, we're going to be able to figure this out, and it's going to be okay. And I think jobs are going to come to this country like you wouldn't believe. Oh, and this is something else I brought up, and I think this would help out a lot for a lot of people to understand. When I was told last night by this gentleman, he goes, there's no way these companies are going to come here and there's no guarantee that they're going to build a factory and employ expensive American labor to sell their goods. And I said, all right, do you have any idea what the profit margin is on, let's say, a pair of blue jeans? He didn't know. I said, I have a friend of a friend that owns a blue jean factory in the Philippines. Thailand. And he said he makes it was something crazy, like 70 times the cost after expenses on these pairs of blue jeans. And he said that he loses out the back door just from thefts that go to these markets where the employees steal. I want to say it's like 15%. I want to say it was 15. It might have been 20%. And he said, we know this, and we're still making so much money. Well, let me ask you this. If that person that manufactures blue jeans over there still makes insane amounts of money and is faced with having to manufacture those same jeans that they sell in America, right? And they just put a fancy label. It's not even fancy, but you think it's fancy because it's limited. You're part of the elite if you wear them. And you could only make 5 to 10 times your money if you make them here. Do you think you're still going to go, nope, I'm not making them? No, you're going to make them. You're going to manufacture them here. It's going to be okay. If you are wanting to take advantage, and I think that Bitcoin is still here to drop a little bit more. We've hit the death cross for Bitcoin on the technical analysis side, but the fundamentals are still super strong. If you want to get ready, and I think hopefully it's going to dip down to the high 60s, low 70s, which means everything else is going to come down even more in price. If you want to take advantage of that, then check out the DeFi Pro course, and I'll teach you how to buy coins off big exchanges on just the small exchanges as they're building up and ramping up for this next boom cycle. Hopefully you have a great day. The Economic Ninja is out.